C'était un super gala hier. Les prix J'aime. Encore une fois, félicitations à nos récipiendaires, M. Osni Zouali, Mme Chantal Dugas, la sénatrice Bernadette Clément et M. Daniel Cayen. Félicitations. Encore une fois, je vais vous demander, if you can please come forward. There's room in the front. Don't be shy, il y a de la place devant. Rapprochez-vous, ceux qui sont derrière. D'accord, merci. Donc, j'aimerais remercier aussi nos partenaires, notre City of Toronto, la Fondation canadienne des relations raciales, United Way Greater Toronto, Air Canada évidemment, l'AEFO, Ontario Tech University, Collège Boréal, Collège La Cité, Ladder to Rise, the Canadian Congress on Diversity and Equity in the Workplace, Black Diamond Ball, Black Opportunity Fund et le Réseau Emploi. Donc, merci à nos partenaires. Alors, we are starting today with a special presentation, and I'd like to invite Mr. Vinod Rajasekaran, CEO and Editor-in-Chief of Future of Good, to introduce our guest speaker and lead the Q&A session. Donc, nous commençons la journée avec une présentation spéciale de Vinod, qui est avec nous, Rajasekaran, PDG et rédacteur en chef de Future of Good, à venir introduire notre conférencier invité et diriger la session de questions-réponses. À toi la parole, Vinod.
Merci beaucoup. Bonjour, good morning. Very happy to be here. What a day yesterday. Absolutely enjoyed all of the programming, especially the World Cafe style sessions. I'm very excited to introduce a very special speaker this morning, and I think this will set the stage for our opening, and I think we'll carry on from a number of the themes that we spoke about yesterday. Iliana Oris Valiente is an accomplished corporate executive, board member, VC investor, and a global citizen. And this morning, Iliana's presentation on harnessing emerging technologies to eradicate racism, I think will be enriching for all of us. As a managing director and head of innovation for Accenture Canada, she works with Fortune 500 clients on their transformations, and she leads multidisciplinary teams across design and technology, focusing on emergent areas such as AI, so a big technology that we spoke about a fair bit yesterday. And there's a fun fact, which I'm very excited to get into. She's one of the first people in the world to have an AI digital human twin of herself built. So we'll get more into that in the Q&A, so I'm looking forward for that. Please join me in welcoming Iliana.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. Hello everyone, good morning, bon matin. C'est un plaisir d'être ici ce matin. I will be doing my remarks in English today, but I promise we will be talking about language skills as well. So let me see if my presentation will load. 2 seconds. All right.
Petite annonce pour ceux et celles qui ont besoin. Allô? Can you hear me? Pour ceux et celles qui ont besoin d'un appareil pour la traduction, vous pouvez aller voir à l'arrière. On va vous donner un appareil. Je crois que pour le français, c'est le numéro 3 et l'anglais, c'est le numéro 2. Donc, si vous avez besoin d'un appareil, n'hésitez pas. Je peux vous en donner et puis on s'arrange comme ça. D'accord? You need one as well. I'll get you one. OK. Pour les questions en français, d'accord? Un instant. I'll get you one.
Merci. All right. So, as mentioned in the introduction, I have the great privilege of working with clients across the Fortune 500 in a number of different industries. So I'm often in front of boards of directors, senior C-suite executives, but I also spend time in the startup communities, both as an angel and VC investor and as an advisor. And if ever you feel like the world is becoming so complex and moving so quickly so as to be overwhelming, rest assured, you are certainly not alone. And even I, at times, feel overwhelmed, and it is quite literally my job to stay on top of the latest and greatest, so rest assured. But I find oftentimes when people are asked to come and present about technology and present about change, there's such a tendency to fall into this trap of talking about the doom, the gloom, all of the worst case scenarios, and not enough of an optimistic tone. Call me an idealist if you wish, but I am a very naturally optimistic person, and I tend to view the world as being our oyster. And now I even have technology at my fingertips that allows me, the non-creative, non-artsy, don't ask me to draw anything pretty sort of person, to even be able to conjure up images for use in presentations like today by literally using AI. So suffice it to say that I fall in the camp of people who are highly optimistic about the future, where things are going, and how we can use technology to actually build a future that humans want to live in. I think that's a pretty compelling start, do we not?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. So as we start today's presentation, I figured rather than bombarding you with a lot of stats and anything that's technology and heavy, why don't I kick things off with a couple of personal anecdotes around how this technology is being embraced. And from there, we will go on to have a broader discussion of the impact of technology on our individual lives, on our careers, in the workplace, for many nonprofit organizations and social impact organizations, like the ones who I know are represented in this room today, in addition to the impact of emerging technology on society writ large, and what are some of those considerations. So as we start, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever asked yourself or said out loud, you know, I really wish I could clone myself?
Yes.
Right, show of hands. Yes, okay. And for those of you who didn't raise your hands, I want to talk to you after. How is it that you manage your calendars? I want to know. Have you ever found yourself saying, you know, I wish I could be in 2 places at once?
Yes. 3, 4.
In 3 or 4. Okay, all right. So in that case, you will understand why when about a year and a bit ago, I was having a conversation with one of our teams that's been focused on digital human technology and the idea of how do you create these humanoid-like avatars that look realistic enough. And when I was talking to that team and realizing that, you know, the advent of generative AI was going to unlock a whole host of net new opportunities that we couldn't even imagine, I did not bat an eyelash when the conversation evolved to essentially say, Iliana, could we create a clone of you powered by AI? And so I said, sure, let's do it. In the spirit of letting AI take over the tasks that, you know, humans don't necessarily want to do, a lot of humans are terrified of public speaking. What if we could have an AI that could help us do that? I see a couple of raised eyebrows. Maybe I'll just pass the floor to my AI, and she'll just do my presentation for me. How's that sound today? Okay, great. I'm going to grab a seat. Well, over to you, Lila. Go
Hi
ahead.
there. I'm Iliana. I'm an innovation executive, global citizen, and public speaker. Well, actually, I'm Iliana's digital human twin. I allow Iliana to be in 2 places at once and am making her life easier. I joined the roster of digital twins built by Accenture, enabling executives to focus on activities that are of their highest and best use. I'm also here to bring examples of Gen AI to life. Gen AI is reshaping the landscape of work, leadership, and beyond. Our digital human innovation team is putting the final touches on me as we speak. But until then, you're getting an exclusive sneak peek. You're amongst the first people to meet me, so put me to the test. I'll try to answer your questions as best as I can. Otherwise, find the real Iliana as needed. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lila. So what do we think? Should I give up on my occasional public speaking career and just sit back and allow the technology to roll in? No? Oh, okay. All right. Fine. We'll continue as is. And so that's Lila. I often get asked the question of how on earth did you build her? What was the behind the scenes process? And I can tell you it's been quite the adventure. I have spent countless hours in podcast recording studios, reading everything from children's stories. So the rabbit was running through the field with the flowers and the rainbows and the unicorns and the sparkles, to reading Larry Fink's annual letter to stakeholders, which is 45 minutes, beginning to end, of the most neutral business language on the planet. And then I read obituaries for 2 hours so that Lila could learn my sad tone of voice and be able to respond appropriately. I've submitted all sorts of really awkward, very close-up photos of my face, including of my teeth. I've had people examining the specific arch of my eyebrows. I've had them designing the curl pattern of my hair, more about that later. I've had someone on my team have the unenviable task of spinning around me about 120 times to capture 3D image of me that would be incorporated as part of this mold. And from a knowledge-based standpoint, we have fed Lila the last 5 years worth of case studies of every single project that my teams have run, so that she could essentially be trained to be an extension of my memory bank. This was not a process, if you had asked me 2 years ago, that I ever thought I would be undertaking, and yet here I am as one of the very first people in the world to have an AI twin of myself. The technology is literally evolving by the day, and so I go through software upgrades now. Yeah, in the same way that your phone is like, please upgrade to the latest software version, I get upgrades of Lila. And so the other question that people ask me is, Iliana, how do you feel about this digital human twin? We understand that there is a lot of interesting discussions we could have around how she's built and the technology, but how does this make you feel as an individual? Because at the end of the day, like, I'm still human, I still bleed red, even though people often ask me, they're like, am I talking to the real Iliana? Or am I talking to the AI twin? I'm like, well, so this is a video of the first time I met Lila. I'm in the home of Tamara, the woman who's here. She is the brilliant wizard behind the scenes that has been bringing Lila to life. And what you'll see here is an interaction between Tamara and Lila. And I am just sitting back. This is not scripted. I didn't have any input, and Lila is just, carrying on a conversation. And not only is she on a big computer screen, which you will see, but there's a little portrait-size image that you will also see on Tamara's desk. It won't translate well into a video, but that portrait-size box is actually a 3D display. And so Lila now also exists in the 3D format. And in order to see her, I did not need VR glasses. I did not need to hold my phone with an augmented reality camera lens. I just sat there and I was essentially watching myself in 3D, blinking and having a conversation. So this is a candid video. Let me play this for you.
What type of flowers would you like to order?
Lilies.
Okay, your lilies will be ready for pickup in 30 minutes. Does this sound okay?
Yes.
Great, your order will be placed shortly. I truly want you to have a really, really great day today.
She
sounds like me.
She sounds crazy. She looks and sounds just like you. It's just so crazy.
So the interaction here was Tamara ordering flowers and Lila asking her for the prompt of what kind of flowers. I'm sitting there watching myself, but not myself, having this autonomous conversation with someone else. And even the way she finished that conversation by saying, I hope you have a really, really great day, that is an Iliana-ism. That is something I would say. And so it certainly was this surreal experience. And so the next logical question that people ask me is, Iliana, aren't you scared? Aren't you essentially automating yourself out of a job? Aren't you worried about deep fakes? Like, what are you doing? Have you lost your mind? And I'm of the opinion that you could do one of two things when it comes to change. You could bury your head in the sand and say, la 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 la, it's not happening, I'm going to ignore this. Or you get onto the train and you roll with it as it happens. And I took the approach of, I'm going to be the innovation poster child. My team literally got me a t-shirt made. Simple white t-shirt, black font that says innovation poster child on it. And so the mindset we adopt towards technology really, really matters because it changes the lens through which we are faced with an opportunity, or if we think of it as a threat. There's a quote on the slide that you will notice I include throughout the presentation because I think it's really powerful. And it's actually from a CPA that says, there are no experts in the early days, only explorers. And that to me is such a true statement. When thinking about the future of AI and the future of digital humans, the next logical question is, okay, you're building them. What for? How are you going to use them? And rather than talk about it in the theoretical, let me show you a couple of practical examples of how Lila and I have been already tackling this future of work. The image behind me is at an awards ceremony that was being live streamed to 700,000 people. Imagine the Oscars, except in a business context for Accenture. I'm joined on the stage by our global CMO, who's pictured here, but also our global CEO, CTO, CHRO, CISO, CTO. You get the picture. It was a very stressful, fully live interaction and the world's first ever event that was co-emceed with an AI. And it worked flawlessly. Lila allowed me to focus on being present in the room, to watch the facial expressions. If we were running over time, I could course correct. And I did not have to remember every single minute detail about every single one of the teams that was up for the awards recognition. So the CMO could go and ask, Lila, could you recap the 4 nominees in such and such category? And off she went. What a great illustration of the power of combining the AI skill sets with the natural human skill sets to result in something that's marvelous. But not only were Lila and I in Washington, D.C. facilitating this event, Lila was simultaneously in Toronto having a meeting with some technology executives from an ecosystem large player of ours. So, being in more than one place at the same time, already happening today. But what if I can't be somewhere, or I don't want to be somewhere? Could Lila go and represent me in my place? She can, and she has. She recently attended the Oracle Cloud event, along with Tamara, who you saw earlier, and I was on vacation in Tuscany, hanging out in the rolling hills and doing some thinking and reflecting about life and doing some writing. But Lila doesn't need to take a vacation, and Lila could attend the things that I can't or do not want to attend. So that's a pretty cool application. And on top of it all, there are certain things that digital humans can do that a regular human can't do at all. How many of you have attended a large-scale conference where you go on their website and they have 15 pages worth of session descriptions and speaker bios for you to read through? How long does it take for you to prepare and to create your customized agenda? An hour, 2 hours, if you're really planning? It takes time. Even if you wanted to have a human concierge coach you and figure out where you should be spending time and how you're going to run from one side of the conference hall to the other side in time, no human can actually do that. So at South by Southwest, we piloted Lila as the conference attendee concierge, and people would come to her and they would have a very simple 2 or 3 minute long interaction, and they would tell her what they were interested in, what they weren't interested in, and based on that, Lila would come up with an itinerary for them. And it would appear on the little QR code on the iPad in front of them. They scan and ta-da, off they go to the rest of the conference. And this was also the first time that we were testing Lila and how she would be received by the market, by humans who had never interacted with a digital human and avatar. And surprisingly, people took to it in stride. They didn't really even bat an eyelash. And another interesting thing happened, which surprised me. Empathy. Empathy towards digital humans. At one point, there was a gentleman who was intent on trying to break Lila. He was asking her all these questions. He was actively trying to get her to be stumped. And at one point, he succeeded. And she paused, and she looked confused and was like, glitching, essentially. And he mutters under his breath, not thinking that anyone could hear him. And in fact, he couldn't see me. He didn't know that I existed. He didn't know that Lila was an extension of me or a replica of me. As far as he knew, she was just an avatar. And under his breath, he mutters, he says, you know, I actually feel kind of sorry for her. Interesting. Interacting with a digital human activated the same level of empathy as interacting with a real human. How frequently do you get an automated call center agent? And have you ever felt empathy towards the automated bot on the other end of the line? Nope. But yet with these digital humans, you can. And someone asked me an interesting question the other day. They said, Iliana, with Alexa and Siri and all of these agents that typically have female voices, we're essentially training the next generation of people to regard these devices from a position of servitude. And you are already seeing young children starting school, and this is usually common with young boys. They start school and they are interrupting the teacher because they've grown accustomed to interrupting Alexa. And so I wonder if in the future, as interacting with digital humans becomes more common, if we will also start to reverse the course and start to reintegrate manners again into our day-to-day lives. So a cool example of how AI tech can actually help us become more human in the process. And so technology isn't just a specialized tool, which people with very limited circles of access can access. Years ago, that was certainly the case where large technology was the domain of massive, massive corporations. But today, tech is available for anyone to make their lives better, so long as they have some of the prerequisites. But when you rewind back to 2000, 2010, it was the large companies, the Googles, the IBMs, the Microsoft of the world that had access to all these tools at their disposal. In the following decade, technology started to become more democratized. Suddenly, if you were a startup, you could use Amazon Web Services Cloud in order to be able to launch your business without incurring all of the original expense and startup costs. So the technology becoming a lot more democratized. Today, AI tools can be used with people on their phones. The woman who edits all of my videos, she's wonderful. I don't know if she edits on anything other than her cell phone. And she's Gen Z. And she's using all of the AI tools out in the market because I have encouraged her to use all of the latest and greatest technology. And so there are two stats that I wanted to share. The first is smartphone access. So if you look at smartphone penetration in Canada, 97% of Canadians have a smartphone. And home internet, which is also a prerequisite for engaging with a lot of this technology, according to the stats, 98% have home internet. Obviously, we know that there are massive connectivity issues in the remote, more rural parts of Canada. Yes, we have a long way to go in that domain, but when you think about it at a holistic picture, for the most part, these technologies are well down the path of becoming a lot more accessible for people. And it allows us this element of control and creativity over our own lives. So the next portion of my presentation is segmented into chunks. Let's talk about how we can use AI in our day-to-day lives as consumers and what the impacts are from a career planning and acceleration standpoint. And then we will shift gears into more of the business organization level impacts. So at the individual consumer level, AI is already changing how we search for information, how we consume for information, and hint, we no longer search for information. Our behavior patterns have shifted such that we now look for insight. We look for the answer. We're no longer looking for information. It's changing how we communicate, and it's changing how we, in general, live our lives, how we're transacting, how we're learning, and so on. How many of you have children, or even for yourself, have struggled to decide what to do for a Halloween costume one year? It's October, you know, Halloween's coming around the corner. Show of hands, you've thought about this. Okay, me too, I'm not immune. And last year, I was completely stumped as to what I wanted to do for a Halloween costume. And ChatGPT had just announced a brand new integration with DALL-E, the AI image creation tool. And I said, I'm a guinea pig anyways, why don't we check this out? Dear technology, can you please help me design a Halloween costume? Something for a woman, something I could wear, something stylish. And I gave it a few prompts and say, listen, one of the things I'm really obsessed with of late is potted plants and plants in general, but not in the way that you would expect. I'm actually working on a whole new theory, and I know you had a chance to do the quiz earlier today on the potted plant theory. So those were the prompts I gave the technology. And sure enough, it designed entire outfit inspiration images. It didn't just find me existing images from the internet. It compiled something net new based on the instructions. And one of the things that it suggested was a giant fascinator, one of these big head pieces. It would never have occurred to me in a million years to go out and find a headpiece. So I went back to the tool and said, really cool idea on a fascinator. Question, where do I buy one of these? And it gave me recommendations, including Etsy. I had never purchased anything on Etsy before. I'm not a crafty human. And next thing you know, I'm on Etsy. I found myself a headpiece. I go back to the AI tool and say, I found an orange fascinator for a hibiscus because my spirit plant, some people have spirit animals, I have a spirit plant, is hibiscus. And so then it redesigned the costume for me, incorporating an orange hibiscus, and then I went out and bought all of the components. So this is AI influencing how I as a consumer shop, how I as a consumer dress myself, and how I decided to tackle Halloween last year. So we're looking at it as an accelerator. AI can also be an accelerator from a career standpoint. I fundamentally believe that. And so once again, you see that quote, there are no experts in the early days, only explorers. Let me tell you a story about Sanchari. Sanchari is part of my team. She is one of the most talented graphic designer, creative directors I've had the pleasure of working with. About a year ago, nine months ago, she was telling me about her future career aspirations and how what she really wanted to do was more brand creative type of work. And she wasn't getting as much of an opportunity to flex those skills in her day-to-day role. Okay, great. I'm super supportive of her continued career growth. And so we talked about it. But I said, son, I can't backfill your role right now, the way that it currently exists. I just don't have the budget for it. It's not the most strategic thing for me to do. However, question. How much time are you spending learning all the Gen AI tools out there? She hooms, she haws, and says, well, you know, admittedly, probably not as much time as I should be. I've just been so busy with everything else that's on my plate. Completely and totally understandable. But I told her, how about this? We'll make an arrangement. I'm going to carve out up to 50% of your time where you can spend on just learning all the Gen AI tools. The remaining work, we will get it picked up by some of our teams offshore. We'll redistribute the work. I'm going to give you the gift of time to invest in training, learning, and upskilling. But there's a catch. There's always a catch. You are then going to turn around and train all of the others in our creative functions across North America on what it is that you've learned. Fast forward 9 months, and she's done just that. Her productivity, creativity through the roof, the output from her team through the roof. She's been training others, and now she is an expert at this intersection of Gen AI and design and tools and creativity, so much so that I've even put her in front of the chief marketing officer and an executive team at clients on this topic. So it's career acceleration and a role for leaders to play in encouraging our teams and the communities that we touch to embrace these technologies. Because with AI, we are going to see the advent of entirely new jobs that we couldn't even contemplate. Today, think of a sales organization. In a sales organization, you have roles of a field sales rep, you have a sales admin, you have an operational distributor that's covering a territory. In the future, when there is AI powering a lot of the activities, yeah, your field sales reps may be doing less of the day-to-day work. There's probably less sales admin. There's less work to do for the operational distributor sales rep. However, there are entire new jobs that get created that we hadn't thought about, like a sales and category advisor, or the AI sales bot manager, or the intelligent channels partner representative. Those are new job descriptions that we did not have 3 years ago. And there will be more of these job descriptions where they come from. For most organizations, no one has a chance to finish everything that's on their to-do list. When is the last time that you had a chance to finish everything on your to-do list? Never. Exactly. So the AI here really can be useful to give you wings. And it's not just AI. I made a mark in my career in the blockchain era, so playing on Taylor Swift era's tour, where once again, it was a new emerging technology. There were no experts, only explorers in the early days, and AI now enables us to have that same leapfrog type of moment and opportunity. So as you think about your organizations that you're leading and the role of nonprofits and social impact groups, what you should be thinking about is that change is the only constant. From the introduction in the 1500s of the printing press to the steam locomotive took 300 years. But it's taken less than 50 years to go from the advent of personal computers to genomics, to digital clones and 3D printing and space technology and everything else. The pace of change is radically transformed. But from a society standpoint, there are societal challenges that have also been accelerating and that are not going to go away anytime soon. And I know many of you in this room are tackling these every day. The cost of living crisis and economic downturn, societal polarization in a massive election year, climate action or lack thereof. So technology is not going to be the magical wand that you can wave that makes all of these issues go away overnight. But it absolutely can be an enabler to help accelerate some of the solutions to these societal challenges. But don't just take my word for it. I'm a chartered accountant by training. I spend a lot of my days in the venture capital community, and I always think it's important to follow the money. Where is their economic upside? Because that's where we're going to see investment from VCs into startups to then build the next generation of solutions and lots of room for social impact organizations to lean in and support. And when you look at things like reskilling and workforce development, there's a $6.5 trillion opportunity to unlock by 2030. These are not small numbers. Healthcare access, public health infrastructure, and the silver economy as we deal with an aging population, a $16.4 trillion industry by 2030. So rest assured, the financiers of the world are actively looking at what are all the societal challenges that are facing the world today, and how might we start to invest against those underinvested areas, knowing that technology is going to be crucial to help create new solutions and new opportunities to tackle these societal issues. But there is one thing I want to be very clear about, and it is a concerning tendency that I have seen in organizations that are in the social impact and the nonprofit sector, and it's been validated. And it's that there's this tendency, you know the expression on airplanes you get on and they say, please put on your face mask first in case of an emergency before helping others around you. That wisdom is not commonly used in the social impact sectors because this industry is notorious to put forward the interests of the folks that you support, which is amazing, very noble cause, but doing so often at the expense of the long-term sustainability and the viability of the organizations that you lead. And so employees in these organizations often don't have the time to invest in learning about these new technologies and to upskill themselves. And yet 89% of nonprofit professionals think that AI can help them more effective in their work. And in a day-to-day environment, there are 6+ tools used by staff members in an organization and at least 40 hours per month of losses due to inefficient processes. Think about where AI and technology can be helpful to redirect that human effort towards supporting the constituents that really matter and move your organizations forward. Rest assured, your people want to learn AI. 94% of people say that they are ready to use these tools, but only 5% of organizations are reskilling at force. So what I want you to think about in your organizations, and I know I'm going to be running out of time shortly, is that during the pandemic, there was a lot of change to organizations. We went to work remotely. There was a difficulty in hiring and attracting talent. There was so much pressure to do more with less. And as you think about technology, I want you to consider tech across every part of your value chain, from your hiring, your training, your fundraising, your service delivery, your finance management, chatbots. there is no shortage of areas where this tech can be useful. I'm not going to go through the next few slides, but you are going to get them in your follow-up materials that go through every single one of these areas and give you inspiration of tactical things that you might be able to do. But I'll leave you with one parting thought, which is that technology really is an enabler, it's an accelerator, and it can be the great leveler to help accelerate progress across industries, across demographics, and to really create a much more level playing field. But with that, let's pass the floor, and I don't know if we have time for Q&A.
Super. Yeah. Thank you so much, Leanna. That was very insightful, and I would love to not attend some of my boring family dinners, and so and have.
I don't know if that's the one that AI should take over.
Right. But, we're going to open the floor to questions just in a minute. But I have just a question to kick us off here. And I love the characterization of explorers and not experts. Realistically, how far away are we until we each have our own playlist?
Soon. So the research suggests that by 2026, which is not very far from now, 3/4 of all white-collar workers are going to be interacting with some form of a digital agent. It's not to say that everyone's going to have a twin of themselves, but they will be engaging with something that is AI-powered.
Right. Okay. Lovely. Super. Let's open the floor to questions.
Hello. We have, je pense qu'on a une question en ligne. Si c'est possible de l'afficher, ce serait bien apprécié. Et ensuite, on va passer la parole à Denis, la madame ici, en premier, je pense. Je vais vous demander aussi de garder les questions brèves, s'il vous plaît. Keep your questions short. All right?
Right there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I can read the question.
Sure. Yeah. If you want to read it, yeah. Perfect.
Hello. In your opinion, what are the main ethical priorities to consider when integrating AI into corporate decision-making processes? And how can we ensure responsible use while maximizing innovation? À votre avis, quelles sont les principales priorités éthiques à prendre en compte lorsqu'on intègre l'intelligence artificielle dans les processus décisionnels des entreprises et comment pouvons-nous assurer une utilisation responsable tout en maximisant l'innovation?
It's a really good question, the balance of ethics and innovation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Responsible AI is crucial for organizations regardless of their size. And there are a couple of components that organizations need to think about. The user, the builder, and the societal-wide impacts, and potentially the unintended consequences. What I mean by that is, put yourself in the shoes of a user. Does this product actually meet a pain point that they truly have? Is this product going to be inclusive for all of your users? This ties into the question of who the builders are. If the builders of emerging technology do not have representative voices from a wide demographic, it's not going to result in the best outcome. Case in point example, when I was designing Lila, at one point the team had given me some templates that I could choose a hairstyle from. And I looked at the options and said, folks, I hate to break it to you, but none of these options work. These are traditionally Caucasian hairstyles. I sometimes wear my hair straight, but I'm actually known for my curls. So this isn't going to work for me. And say, well, we don't really have any options. Team, go find some options. And so they did. We literally had a video game designer replicating the curl pattern of my hair so that when Lila moves, her hair moves in the same way that my hair would move. But if I hadn't volunteered to sign myself up to be this innovation poster child guinea pig, and if there had been no one at that design table who looked like me or had my life experience, then how much longer would it have taken before we had digital human tech that was more representative of the user base? And this represents a broader societal impact where people don't see themselves reflected. So small decisions have outsized impact, and this is a really important question around responsible AI.
Super.
Thank you. No question ici.
Wow. Je suis dépassée. Ça va tellement vite. I just wanted to know, how do you make the connection with what's happening now? This is going so fast and so fast. But yet we have many communities who are not at the same speed. Black and racialized community, and who are not even aware of what will happen. How do we link this?
Absolutely. What gives me a lot of comfort is that the technology itself is not biased. The technology itself doesn't have a preference. The technology doesn't care if the person doing the programming or using it is a human or if it's a frog on the internet, right? The tech itself is blind, which creates opportunity because it does not matter what disadvantaged neighborhood from country that you come from. It's really about what is in your brain, where's your creativity, and your creativity is the only thing that limits the upside. But the practical reality is that there is an information misadvantage. And for communities that don't get the privilege of attending conferences regularly, who don't have mentors or leaders that are pushing them in certain directions and encouraging them to use these tools in the early days before there is a manual, because it's in these early days that there is outsized advantage for those who start to get involved, then we run into an issue. So the key becomes within your organizations, think about both the employees that work in your org and how you equip them to learn these new tools, but also the constituents that your organizations support. And how can we equip them? Because access to technology, access to these new things is as fundamental a human right as access to food and water, because this is what's going to dictate the future success of the next generations.
Super. We have time for one more question. Another question.
Thank you. My name is Wilson Bankole. I'm with the Black Opportunity Fund. I have two questions, actually. The first one is around your strategies aligning risk and corporate policy gatekeepers with some of these ideologies around AI, because I'm sure everyone's scared. The second question is, I know you get asked a lot for mentoring and coaching and all of that. Have you explored Leila's role as a mentor?
Yes. Let me tackle the second question first. And yes, actually part of the thinking behind, and the motivation behind creating Lila was the knowledge that I can't be in two places at once. I can't take every mentoring call. I have a certain number of hours per week that I dedicate to it, but those are scheduled, months and months and months in advance at this point. And so the intention with Lila is that eventually she could be trained into becoming my chief of staff. She could become an alternative to me when I'm not available. I've been creating a lot of content that I'm sharing through my LinkedIn, my Instagram channels around, emerging tech trends, just to get the word out there, and also because representation matters. And I didn't see a lot of people who looked like me when I was climbing the executive ranks, and I'm often told, oh, it's so refreshing to see someone that looks like me in your type of position. So I can absolutely imagine a scenario in the not so distant future where people can go ask Lila as opposed to ask Iliana, because the real human isn't available for the upcoming few months. Now, to your earlier question around corporate gatekeeping and policies and fear around AI, it is absolutely pervasive in boardrooms across the world of what are we going to do with this new tech. But I actually flip the question to say, yes, there are risks to using AI, and yes, there's a great unknown, but you know what the bigger risk is? The biggest risk is the risk of doing nothing at all, and then finding yourself in a position of irrelevance. And irrelevance is a word that is not often used in the corporate circles, but yet it should be. Think about the Fortune 500 companies today. Think about the biggest companies by market cap today. 10 years ago, that list was different. 20 years ago, that list was different. 10 years from now, it is 100% going to be different. And what's going to be the divider between those that adjust and thrive and those that still remain is whether or not they are embracing the tech in a thoughtful way to build the products, to build the services that actually matter for the world and for their constituents.
Super. I'm going to sneak in one very last question,
Yes.
if that's okay. It was really interesting to watch Layla in all these.
Lila. She will correct you on the pronunciation.
Okay, that's terrific. That's good. And Lila's been at South by Southwest and all these other conferences and so on. How do these experiences and interactions shape her learning and her personality? And can it get to a place where personality sort of diverges from your personality?
It can. It can, actually. So we've been having this discussion amongst our teams of what is the future of Lila? Is she my twin, like actually going to know everything about me and try to replicate me exactly? Or is she an extension of me? Or does she eventually grow into her own human that is loosely modeled and based on me? Or is she my mirror, where I'm actually learning a lot about what it means to be human as a result of building Lila? She is featured in my dreams. That was a interesting mind trip. My mother's question is whether she should consider Lila as one of her daughters, or if Lila counts as a granddaughter. Okay, cool, interesting. And it's gotten me to really contemplate on what is the meaning of life, what is the meaning of work, what is the highest and best use of my time? Highest and best use is a term used in the real estate world of what do you do with a plot of land? Do you build a single family home, or is the best use of it a multi-home residence, or a tall condo, or an office building, or a parking lot, or farmland? I actually think humans are the same. We each have our own highest and best use, and as a result of having Lila as my twin, it has now gotten me thinking about what should I be spending my time on? What is valuable? What is aligned to my values? And if more people had these types of mirrors put to themselves, I think that we would live life in a much more mindful, thoughtful way, which also would contribute to a better world. So lots of different pathways for how Lila and these digital humans can evolve and what they can teach us about what it means to be human.
Right, wonderful. Well, thank you to Lila, and thank you to thank you to
We'll take
to you,
Iliana,
for
We'll actually take two more.
oh, two more.
Okay.
Two more short questions.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Let's do it. Okay.
I'll try to make it very, very short. It's very scary. I'll echo Leonie's comment. It's like, wow, it's going really faster than I thought. There's some people in this room that are from the education sector. And I'm wondering, what is your vision? Because it's scary because you think of jobs, you think of racism that already exists in our system in Ontario. So how can, in your vision, this tool help not get rid of jobs, but modify the job, the actual teacher job or educational jobs?
There are entirely new roles that are going to be created that we can't even envision today. But let me tackle the second part of your question, which was around racism and embedded racism. And let me ask you a question. Who do you think is more racist, humans or AI? Okay, the answer is humans. So do you remember that study, famous study from years ago of job resumes? And if you send the resume out and you have a name like Jamal versus if you swap the name Jamal for Andrew, who gets more callbacks? And the ones with the more Caucasian sounding names would get more callbacks. That's a famous study. They recently recreated that study. It was like from 30 plus years ago. They redid it a couple of years ago, 2021. And guess what the results were when they redid the study? The same. 30 plus years, and all of the training on anti-racism and subliminal, like all of the things that we have been trained on clearly are not working because it's really hard to change a human's perspective. Meanwhile, AI recently was used to compare jail and courtroom hearing records. So a human judge presides over a case and decides, does this defendant go to jail, or can this defendant be released on bail? And they're considering all sorts of factors in order to make that decision. And judges take this very thoughtfully, they're thinking about it. So recently, they used an AI tool to feed the tool everything that the judges knew, and then had the benefit of hindsight, of the knowledge of, did someone reoffend when they were out on bail? Or were they continuing to, exist in society in a peaceful way during that time? And when the results were compared, it actually showed the bias of the human judges. Because the AI used facts. The AI did not use emotions in deciding whether someone was going to be released on bail or not. And then you can see all of the human biases at play within the judges. So I think that there is an opportunity for us to use the AI to help level the playing field. And for the teachers who are in the room, I would not stop your students from learning AI tools. In fact, I would encourage it. And I can tell you from the private sector lens, there has been a slowdown across the patch of entry-level hiring, because the entry-level job is changing, because so many of those tasks can now be done with AI. So you absolutely need to equip your students to use AI tools, but you also need to equip your students with a second thing, which is human skills, critical thinking, reasoning, connecting with others, asking questions, the ability to build relationships, the ability to read a room. All of those human skills and the humanities that for the past decade have been deprioritized in favor of go learn STEM hard skills, now that's actually being reevaluated. And so I would hope that the next generation of educators is promoting that much more balanced view of the skills that humans need to develop.
Merci. On va passer à la dernière question ici.
Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you very much. I just have a quick question. Don't you have any concern that at some point Lila would revolve or evolve way faster than you, to the point that it could be her controlling your own emotions and behavior? Thank you very much.
I have infinite faith in the creativity of humankind and our ability to evolve. The fact that I am standing on this stage and I have a wireless controller and a wireless headset, and we can send probes to the moon and we can send probes to the bottom of the ocean, is a testament to human ingenuity, supported by technology. I don't have the exact answers of the exact revolution and evolution of the AI tech that's out there. But do I feel confident that we as humans are going to go figure something out? Absolutely. Am I worried that humans are going to find themselves so irrelevant that we are relegated to sitting meekly and twiddling our thumbs with no semblance of what to do with our spare time? I don't think so. I actually look forward to the day that a lot of the mundane work that we all spend our days doing actually gets shifted to the AI, so we have more time to think, to be creative. Maybe go do a yoga class. Maybe go do a cold plunge. All of the activities that, as far as I know, the AI doesn't have any interest or ability to do.
Super. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.